Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And the Phils had a 3-0 weekend against the Giants. The series isn't over, but it's a great start. And that leaves them with the best record in baseball. We'll celebrate it, even though it is kind of early in the season. Also, the Trea Turner injury news from over the weekend. I'll talk to you about what's going on with Trea, what the expectation is, and how the Phillies can overcome this. And there's one more game of the series with the Giants. It's an afternoon game today, so we'll preview that and how the Phillies could potentially pull off a 4-game sweep. All of that on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube. Subscribing to the YouTube is the number one thing you can do to say, hey, like your content. So would really appreciate it if you could do that. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We got to talk about Monopoly Go because this fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like you can get unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, hilarious emojis for taunting your friends or enemies. So download Monopoly Go now for free on Google Play or the App Store. It's game on with Monopoly Go. And it was game on this weekend for the Philadelphia Phillies, who just have, well, I don't want to say demolished the San Francisco Giants, because Saturday's game notwithstanding, there's 2 one-run games in this series. The Phils won game 1 on Friday by a score of 4-3. They won game 3 yesterday by a score of 5-4. That 14-3 drubbing on Saturday with a lot of rain and wind and stuff mixed in there does show you the difference in this team's peak. But still, this team is just finding ways to win series, win baseball games, all of this great stuff. So the big takeaways from the weekend, not surrounding the Trea Turner injury, which we're going to talk about. We're going to get into that coming up next, but I want to just talk about the series as a whole. Alec Boehm's hitting streak is up to 18 games. It's hard to not start this conversation about why the Phillies have been so good without looking at Alec Boehm, who's been a major catalyst for the offensive success. Bryce Harper goes yard yesterday, hits a big home run for the Philadelphia Phillies, ended up being a huge difference in the game. And I'm going to petition Major League Baseball verbally right now because I'm not actually doing paperwork. Sorry, folks. I love the Phillies, but I ain't doing any paperwork over it. We should have every Philadelphia Phillies game on national television because Bryce Harper, when he's in a big spot, like the Phillies were last night on Sunday Night Baseball, he just always delivers. He hasn't had the best start to the season, not at all, especially by his standards, but he's shown flashes of being the guy that we know he is. And in big moments, on big stages, Bryce Harper's always going to show up. I know. I hear somebody right now screaming at their computer or their phone or however you're listening to this saying, well, what about the NLCS last year? Okay, yeah, I know. I get it. Nobody's perfect. But Bryce Harper, more often than not, we'll say, shows up in the big moments. Something interesting, too, that I kind of want to discuss, right? Because Saturday's game was definitely taken over by the 14 runs scored by the Phillies, 9 of those in the first 2 innings. Like, they batted around in the first. That's a monstrous performance, and I really love everything I saw offensively from the Philadelphia Phillies in that game, the way they just grinded out at bats. I mean, they scored 14 runs on 12 hits. They only had 1 home run. Like, they didn't exactly get to a situation where it was beyond a doubt. And I mean, the only home run was Whit Merrifield in the 7th inning. So they grinded out at bats. They weren't just like hitting the ball out of the yard every single time. That's the only way they can score. This team is versatile, right? I think that's something really special to note, that this team is versatile. But we'll get to that in a second. My point of bringing up Saturday is more so lost in the shuffle was Ranger Suarez not being his sharpest. You can put it on the weather or whatever. You could put it on he's due to have a game that isn't just 7 or 8 innings of shutout ball. But even with the stat line that Ranger Suarez posted, which was 6 innings of 7 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 6 Ks, definitely not on par for what he's been doing this year. Still a 1.72 ERA, still a huge win, an 11-run win. But even if you didn't have that, if the Giants had scored 3 runs in either of the other games in this series, the Phillies still would have won. So he's given you enough, just something to keep an eye on. Like, I don't think Ranger Suarez is struggling, not remotely. He's the best pitcher on the planet right now, in my opinion. But there will be times throughout the season where you'll see a performance where he doesn't have his best stuff. And that kind of gets us into the conversation about the best record in baseball, which is owned by your Philadelphia Phillies right now at 24-11, 13 games over 500, a hot start to the year. It's amazing to see. Here's what I'll say, because a lot of people, when they hear me talk about the Phillies, will be critical of how positive I am sometimes, even in the face of adversity. And I get that. You want someone who's real with you, and I try to always be. I honestly believe all of the good things I say about the Philadelphia Phillies. But to prove that point a little bit more, there will be times where the fan base will get very, very excited, and we may be jumping the gun a little bit. And I'm not saying don't be excited about the Phillies start. Dude, it's awesome that they are 24-11 and have the best record in baseball. They're leading in the NL East. But notice what I said. Said best record in baseball. I did not say they're the best team in baseball, because it's too early to determine that. It really is. Are they the hottest team right now? Yeah. Are they the best team in baseball? I don't know. The Dodgers just swept out the Braves. The Braves are still a dangerous team, even though they got swept out by the Dodgers. The American League is kind of not really in the forefront view of Phillies fans right now, but there are some solid teams over there. The Guardians have had a wild start to the year. Who saw that coming? Like, I'm not ready to declare the Phillies the best team in baseball. Earlier this morning on the radio, I called them a juggernaut team. And that's the way I describe this right now, right? They have the best record in baseball. They can win a lot of different ways. They're versatile. But when I call them a juggernaut, here's why that's different than past years. Last year, they were a great team. Juggernaut's a level above that. The year before that, in 2022, when they first made it in, then went on that miraculous run, I think they were just a good team. They got really hot at the right moment and built off that momentum. But the difference between great last year and juggernaut this year, which I firmly believe the Phillies are in a higher category this year, a higher tier among Major League Baseball teams this year, is consistency, right? A juggernaut is like an unstoppable force. Last year, the Phillies were stoppable, not just because they lost in the National League Championship Series, but they had a slow start. They had stretches of the season where they didn't look great. And there will be stretches this year where I think the Phillies will struggle when the schedule gets tougher. But I don't see this team going through a 2-week stretch of being miserable. I don't see this team going through a month where it's just like, wow, that was a really bad month. I see this team having maybe 2 to 3 bad series in a row at most. Like, they're just so consistently good. Every series you're going to run into a pitcher who's just been dominant to this point, whether it's Wheeler, whether it's Ranger Suarez, and any of that stuff. Like, they have great arms. The bullpen is all right. I think they have a higher ceiling than what they're showing right now, but they've done enough for this team to have the best record in baseball, so can't complain. They're better than all their peers. And the offense can just hang 14 on someone just randomly on a Saturday night. And I know the Giants aren't the cream of the crop in Major League Baseball, but they're not a miserably bad team. They're 15-20, but they came into this series 15, and what would that have been? 17? That's not too far off even 500. I don't know. Juggernaut to me, though, means consistent play and, well, consistent winning, right? Even the great teams. If you go back and look at Atlanta from last year, if you look at maybe the Dodgers this year, if you look at some of the great teams of recent memory, they don't just, it might feel like, because you see the highlights, you don't watch them every day like you do the Philadelphia Phillies, but it might feel like, oh, they're hitting 5 or 6 home runs every game. They're getting great pitching every game. They're playing on stellar defense every game. And that's not it. You're going to have stretches where you win games tight. I don't know. For example, a 5-4 win over the San Francisco Giants, or a 4-3 win over the San Francisco Giants. Like, you're going to have to win tight games too. And the Philadelphia Phillies have shown that they are really good at winning tight games, blowout games, everything in between. They just win. And I think that this is a trend that you can get used to seeing. I'm not ready to crown them as anything. Right now, though, there's no denying it. the best record in Major League Baseball, lives in Philadelphia with your fighting Phils. And that's an awesome thing to see to this point. So I feel good about where we're at. I really do. And where they're at, I should say. I know people get annoyed when they're weird. It's a force of habit. I feel involved. Not that I'm playing for them, but if they need an extra 78 miles an hour, I think my shoulder that just popped 4 times can give it. The point is, the Phillies are in a great spot, and there's only one major concern right now. Unfortunately, it came out of this series, and it's Trea Turner's health. Trea Turner has a left hamstring injury. He's going to miss some time. Coming up, we're going to talk about how much you should expect him to miss, what the recovery process is like, and how the Philadelphia Phillies cover for him while he is unavailable. So we'll get into all of that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, let's talk about LinkedIn, right? You might be struggling to close deals. Well, business-to-business selling is tougher than ever. And that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals like job changes or which accounts you should prioritize. All these things that are very important as you're trying to figure out the right way to make a sale. And it shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert into sales. So fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Like everyone's on LinkedIn. All that data is there. You can use it with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and you can get started. Let's talk about Monopoly Go too. Our title sponsor for today's episode and one of the best apps in the business. It's an absolute banger of a game. You got to check it out. I know what you're saying. You already talked about Monopoly Go a little bit in the open. There's just so much good stuff in this game, though. I got to tell you about all of it. You can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. Isn't it more fun when you're all on the same team? And maybe you say, no, it's more fun when you compete against your friends. You could do that too. You could show them who the best Monopoly player is on Monopoly Go. There's so much stuff to unlock. I told you about it, but you can get unique stickers and cool new playing pieces and all of that stuff. Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day because they've got constantly changing tournaments and challenges. Imagine you bought a typical Monopoly board, like the old board game. Still a fun game. I love Monopoly. But every day you open it, it was one of the cool, new, unique, different types of Monopoly they've come up with. That's what Monopoly Go is like. Plus, you've got a bunch of unique mini games with those challenges, like digging for treasure or robot pachinko machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. So the first bit of major adversity for the Philadelphia Phillies has hit for the 2024 season. It's not ideal, and just as the team was heating up, and they're still hot. I mean, they won 2 games without him. Game 1 of this series, the winning run was scored by Trea Turner. Now, it was early on in the game, but he scored from second on a wild pitch, which is insane speed. Bryce Harper walks on a pitch that goes to the backstop. Trea Turner routes third, makes it home. Sweet slide, smooth like always from Trea. And then he gets up kind of weird. It was hard to notice during the broadcast, but then he didn't go back into the game. And they talked to him after the game, and Trea said, I'll miss a couple days. Training room and everything. They're not going to like me because I'm going to be in there all the time bugging them about how do I get back on the field faster. And then we find out it's a little bit more major than that. He has a left hamstring injury. I don't know the full diagnosis of that specifically, but he was placed on the 10-day injured list just now. He's expected to miss up to 6 weeks, or around 6 weeks, we'll say. He could be back sooner, could be back later, but the time frame that we've been given is 6 weeks for Trea Turner. A month and a half without a guy that was hitting well into the 300s, creating a lot of opportunities, stealing bases, scoring runs. batting in the 2-hole, starting to figure it out defensively at shortstop. Like, that's a tough thing to make up for. That's a tough player to replace. And it shows you why it was so important that the Phillies added to their depth this offseason, because now there's nothing you can do. You're going to have to overcome this. Now, do I think this is like, well, he's going to come back and he's going to take time to get ready, he's going to deal with it? No, I think this is the right move by the Phillies and taking the cautious approach. It's May. It's May 6th. Hopefully you enjoyed Cinco de Mayo yesterday, by the way. But it's too early in the season to say, okay, well, we're going to rush you back in a week from something that we feel like we should probably be safer and shut you down for a while on. It's not fun, right? You want to watch Trea Turner play baseball. You want the Phillies to play as well as they can, and the best version of this team has Trea Turner batting second and playing shortstop. But the cautious approach is the smart one, considering you're not playing for the regular season. You're playing for the World Series, and that doesn't start until the postseason, which doesn't start until October. So take it easy and don't rush anything. The question now is, how do the Phillies make up for it? I'll tell you what I would have done in a second, but the Phillies have decided that Edmundo Sosa is going to get first crack at shortstop. And he's going to go out there and play in place of Trea Turner. Now, Whit Merrifield, who's never played shortstop at the major league level, has said he's available to do that. He's a versatile player. That's why the depth is important that you added this offseason. Bryson Stott can obviously shift over to shortstop. Some people, even with Trea Turner healthy, think that Bryson Stott would be the better shortstop option defensively. So there are multiple options there, which is great, because last year when Rhys Hoskins went down at first base, understand different position, but you were kind of like, what do we do? Bryce is hurt. Rhys Hoskins just tore his ACL. Derek Hall gets hurt with a thumb injury like 2 series into the year. And then you got Cody Clemens and Jake Cave splitting time at first base. It was a how in the world do we fix this type of situation. This is more of a what's the best option, because we have a couple. And like I said, Edmundo Sosa is going to get the first look at shortstop. The Phillies have won twice since Trea Turner went out. So, I mean, it's all good so far. Not that it's always going to be all good. The play level of Edmundo Sosa is not to the level of Trea Turner. But I like Sosa as a defensive replacement for situations like this. If you're going to play a month and a half with Sosa shortstop, he's not going to kill you. I think there's a better option. What I probably would have done was I would have played Bryson Stott at shortstop. I would have played Whit Merrifield at second base. I would have rotated Sosa in for each of those guys to try and keep them fresh throughout the time period, and that would have been my infield alignment going forward. But I kind of understand why they do that, right? There's this old principle in sports where if a guy gets hurt and there's another starter who can play that position, you shift him over, and now you've got 2 guys playing out of position. You have the person who played the other position. So let's just use this as an example. You have Bryson Stott playing shortstop, where I don't know if he's as comfortable at second base, but it's a change for him. Then you have someone who doesn't normally playing second base, and now the middle infield are 2 guys that are not your best options. In this case, at least you have Bryson Stott still in his natural position for the time being, or the position the Phils like him in for the time being. He doesn't have anything change in his life, and then you just insert a guy. So one hole rather than creating another one to try and plug the first. I get it. I think the Phillies would be best with Merrifield at second and Stott at shortstop, but I can't argue with the results. They just keep winning. Where this is really going to start to be questionable is when you get into the tougher part of the schedule, which you have coming up end of this month and next month. And then also when this team hits a slide, when some of the other guys are not hitting as well, when you're not facing a bunch of right-handed pitchers, another righty today, by the way. We're going to preview Phillies-Giants Game 4 coming up, and I'm going to tell you about the pitching matchup, an interesting one in the final game of this series. But when you have righties and you got enough lefties in the lineup to create and everything, you can survive this. There will be times where the Phillies miss Trea Turner. They may lose a game or two because they don't have Trea Turner, where you say, he would have gotten a hit there, he would have scored a run there, this, that, and the other thing. It might be hard to quantify, but I'm not saying like, oh, well, the Phillies don't need Trea Turner. I'm saying that the Phillies are in position to make up for this, and the fact that they added depth means you should be able to more than tread water without Trea Turner here. And then when he gets back, even better. So rather have it happen now than later on in the year. Not a great thing, but that's the latest on the Trea Turner injury. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about Game 4 and whether or not the Phillies can pull off the rare 4-game sweep of the Giants. All of that as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let me tell you first, though, Yahoo Finance, absolutely amazing. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investments and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Could you imagine having like 50 windows open on your laptop or desktop to try and figure out where all your money's going and your investments, and this is doing this and that's doing that? No, come on. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation. You want to help pay off your debt or your mortgage. I mean, pretty much anything standing in the way of your financial freedom, right? And Yahoo Finance gives you access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help you reach that financial freedom. It gives you all of that stuff to make your job easy, make your money work for you. All of these buzzwords you hear from financial advisors, listen, Yahoo Finance is great for that. They've been doing this for more than 25 years. You might be a seasoned investor. You might be looking for intro guidance. Either way, any skill level of money management, Yahoo Finance is the way to go. They've got a community of over 90 million users each month. Their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. So what are you waiting for? For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. That's yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination. Again, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. And let's wrap up with this series isn't over, folks. I know you say the Phillies won 3 against the Giants. Isn't that the end? It's Monday. Shouldn't the series have ended on Sunday? Nah, one of those weird ones because you got Toronto coming in starting tomorrow for a small 2-game set on Tuesday and Wednesday. So the Giants get an extra day in this beautiful city of Philadelphia where it's been raining since they showed up. And they have to face Zach Wheeler, which is not an ideal spot for any baseball team, much less a team like the Giants who have been having trouble with offensive output in this series. So a Wheels day, you know how I feel about it. I'm not going to jinx him. I'll just say that you have a really good chance to win baseball games when Zach Wheeler is on the mound. That's why the Philadelphia Phillies are hugely favored on the money line, -210 favorites currently, and a 73.9% chance to win according to ESPN analytics. But there's another reason why. We've got a new name to learn, folks. Mason Black is pitching for the San Francisco Giants, and he's making his major league debut today. Another righty. So it will be the 4th right-handed pitcher starting a game for the Giants in this series. Righty, 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 righty. And you can get in a rhythm against guys like that, and that's a good thing for the Philadelphia Phillies. It should make them more comfortable. Now, I know what people are saying. Phillies are facing the guy that's making his major league debut. They don't have any tape on him. This would be the classic Phillies go out and get like 3-hit game. I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. I understand. I've been a Phillies fan for my whole life, so I've seen those games. This team, if I'm going to call them a juggernaut, I'd expect them to touch up a major league debut making pitcher, regardless if they have tape on him or not. Mason Black is 24. He's young. He's getting called up out of necessity for the Giants because they need somebody to make this start. And I don't really know what to expect from Mason Black. I don't, but I know that the Phillies have a billion years of experience on him. Zach Wheeler is already a really tough pitcher to beat, even if you've got your best pitcher going. That's why he's the Phillies ace, or Ranger Suarez is making a push for that, but it's still Zach Wheeler. And I'd expect the Philadelphia Phillies to win today. I told you a split was an acceptable result. I told you winning the series would be awesome. I told you expecting a sweep by the Phillies before the series would be an unrealistic expectation to say that's like a level that you want. Like, could they do it? Yes, but it's not something you go into a series thinking you have to or should or anything like that. Well, now you find yourself on the doorstep. So throw all that out the window. I'm happy with the series win already, but go for the sweep. Go get them. You're better than this team. I'd expect the Phillies to win today. If they don't, still have not lost the series since your second series of the year, but a golden opportunity for a rare 4-game sweep, especially when you have not played historically the San Francisco Giants well. For a franchise that's always had the Phillies number, this is really encouraging to see. So best of luck to the Phils today. Hopefully we're talking about a win tomorrow, and then we'll also be previewing the series with the Blue Jays, a short 2-game set. But that's all for today's episode. Again, I want to thank you so much for checking us out here on Locked On Phillies. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And please make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the YouTube. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.